everybody thinks there's like one magic bullet, right? If I have consistency, I'm gonna be successful. Is true, but you have to look at it as like kind of a special recipe. Each element, consistency, determination, accountability, inspiration, all these things you personally have to meld it together in your mind and implement on it to be successful. There's no one magic bullet. And your life is that gourmet plate. It's that dish. It's that little morsels, right? It's that dish that you're cooking up. People say it's a story you're writing. It's this. I'll just call it your dish that you're cooking. And in the end of the day, on your deathbed, whatever, you get to eat all that. You get to eat that plate. So you're constantly, you're the chef. You're the chef. I keep hearing you're the author of your own story. No, you're the chef of your own plate, your own meal. Yeah. Right? What you put in, consistency, determination, all those things.
What lessons you learned will be the best recipe.
That's going to be the best recipe. Exactly. Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Yun Nguyen, affectionately called the Ninja by my friends, and because my fans are my friends, you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the alpha to the omega, the beginning to the end, talking about life, motivation, self-improvement, success, joy and fulfillment, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. We are back in the studio post-Thanksgiving, and ooh, that was tough. I was in the 70-day-ish of 75 hard, so I had to pass up on a lot of alcohol, a lot of pies, a lot of sweets. I love sweet potato pie. My mother-in-law, Miss Patty, Mimi, thank you so much. She always bakes me a sweet potato pie on Thanksgiving. She did it this year and had to take a pass. So blessings to her for making it, but she whispered in my ear. She said, son, I will make you another sweet potato pie when you're done with 75 hard. So thank you very much. But hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We're back in the studio. Before we begin the actual show today, I want to start the show as I start my day with an expression of gratitude. I always thank God, the universe, every morning when I wake up for another day, another opportunity to be great and inspire and influence the lives of others and make a change in this world. So with that, I want to start my episode with an expression of gratitude for all of you out there in End-to-End Podcast Nation. Thank you very much for all your support, following, liking, commenting, sharing, especially, and subscribing to the show. I do this on my own dime, on my own time. I spend money out of pocket to make the show. There's a whole team here. My producer, Areeb, is here on this podcast today. They spend a lot of money in their time supporting the show. So, as I like to say, if you find value in this show or any other show, which I hope you do, even just a little bit of inspiration, please do share the show. As I say, if you're knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow and accomplishing our mission of the podcast and why I started it, which is to inspire billions of lives across the planet in a very positive way, given all the turmoil going on in the world. And with that, also living to your fullest controllable potential. So please do share the show if you find value in this or any other episode. But if you're new to the show, we have various types of shows. Most commonly is just a show about me speaking kind of a stream of consciousness on, 15, 20, 30 minutes on ideas about self-improvement, success, and self-motivation and those kind of things. I also have a show where I bring on a guest, and those are a little bit longer, and we talk about their story and how they got successful or they've inspired other people and how those stories can apply to you. Now we've added 2 new segments. It used to be called Prolific Q&A. Well, actually it's called Prolific Q&A, which is today's episode, where this time I actually have my producer and co-host Areeb Mirza here. And then I also have a show called Prolific POV, Point of View, where again, it's co-hosted with Areeb, and we talk about current events and thoughts and ideas on what's going on in the world. But today is Prolific Q&A with my guy, Areeb Mirza, who I've known now for almost 2 years. He's produced the episode since day one. He's been with me. I've seen him grow his success story. He's well on his path, motivated, driven, did 75 hard with me. So, Areeb.
Yes.
How was your Thanksgiving, man? Do you even celebrate Thanksgiving? Not to be kind of like that kind of deal, but yeah.
So one of my videographer, Damien, he asked me that question too, and I was like, living in the United States, you kind of have to know.
Yeah, you have to, right?
You have
Yeah.
to because it's a holiday and it's just one of those things where everything's closed and people are spending time with their family. Might as well spend time with your family. That kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
perfect, man. So it's good. Did you
Yeah.
pig out?
Not really.
Good. Well, you look good, man. You look good.
Appreciate it.
No, it's Areeb is originally from Pakistan. Came to the States as a young boy. Basically grew up on his own, right, with his uncle, but mainly on his own. And struck out to be an entrepreneur. And here he is living his story. We've had a lot of conversation off camera about what it takes to be successful. So I'm glad to have him as a co-host on this particular episode. If you want to follow him, if you want to find him, he offers a ton of great content on videography, film production, photos. Follow him at
Areeb Mirza.
IAREEBMIRZA on
Instagram.
Instagram,
correct.
and then also focus.
Yeah, Focus.vid is more of a business page. So if you have
Okay.
any inquiries, they could reach out to me
Yeah,
there.
and that's actually how I found him. So it's FOKUS.vid. So let's get into it, man. Today's prolific Q&A. I don't know these questions ahead of time. I just tell Areeb, I texted him last night, hey, let's do prolific Q&A tomorrow. He's like, I got you. So here we go. I don't know what these questions are. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. So we're gonna ask two questions. The first question is, what habits do you have to stay motivated and increased productivity? So you do maybe this question came up from you doing 75 hard and all these challenges,
Okay.
while also simultaneously handling all the businesses, the podcasts,
Okay.
and all these creative endeavors as well. So how do you? I think that's a good branch of where the question is coming from.
That's a very, very good question. For those of you who are new to the show or have been listening, I am on my 4th round of 75 hard. Today is actually day 74, so I got 1 day left. But 75 hard is a mental strengthening program invented by Andy Frisella, who has a podcast called Real AF. He's the co-founder of a multi-billion-dollar supplement company and a bunch of other companies. But I listened to him. Someone listened to. I actually caught on to him during the lockdown, during COVID. So I'm like, hey, this guy's kind of interesting. But he's had a podcast since like 2018 or 15 or something like that. But anyway, it incorporates multiple elements for 75 days. If you're new to the program, which is no alcohol, you read 10 pages of nonfiction, you take a progress picture, you drink a gallon of water, you maintain a diet consistent to whatever goal you have, and then you work out twice a day for 45 minutes, one of which must be outdoors. Okay, regardless of what the weather's doing, whatever, you got to do it outdoors, only to illustrate that sometimes you got to do things that are outside of your control. So you do this for 75 days straight, and if you forget one item or you miss one, you go to sleep and forgot to take your selfie, guess what? You got to start all over again. Now, there is no 75 hard police that comes and checks on you. So it's a self-accountability thing. How true to yourself can you be on meeting these certain requirements for 75 days straight? It's a program, not a challenge, but it rewires your brain, or for me specifically, it narrows in my focus to cut out all the bullshit. Actually, when I know I've got to do these things, I have less time for the BS. So to your point though, and let me, before I get to the question, in this particular one, I'm actually on day 2 of a water fasting regimen. So I made it even harder on myself for this 4th round of 75 hard. And this was posted by Dana White. Maybe you can find the clip and air it, or I'll send it to you. But he did a actually 4-day water fasting regimen. I'm doing 3 days, which is the norm, which is the first day is water only with electrolytes. The second and third day, same thing, water only with electrolytes, but you can add 2 servings of non-carb broth, chicken or beef. And because I work out, I'm still working out, I got to maintain the protein for my muscle mass. But the idea here is to cleanse your body, actually scientifically proven to reduce the likelihood of cancer by 70%.
Oh, wow.
And other debilitating conditions. Cancer cells require a lot of sugar. Cancer, by definition, is uncontrollable cellular growth. So for cells to grow, it requires a lot of sugar. That's why cancer patients lose a lot of weight real quick. So if you're starving your body of these sugars, well, the cells can't survive. Cancer cells can't survive, right?
Gotcha.
Beyond normal cells. So anyway, so I've made it harder this time around with these last 3 days of 75 hard laying on top the 72-hour water regimen.
Wow.
So this is day 2. The effects are immediate, man. I'm surprised, but to your point, to the question, which is, how do you stick to your daily regimen? And I think there's 2 parts to that.
Yeah. So
it's very complicated, but
yeah.
I'm gonna say the 2 main parts.
So it's how do you stay motivated and increase the productivity?
How do you stay motivated and increase the productivity?
Yeah.
A lot of people would say, and a lot of motivational gurus, is you got to find your why.
Yeah.
Right. Your why is an idea that you're doing something bigger than yourself. The studies show that if you do something bigger than yourself, you're more motivated in that direction. Okay. If your why is for yourself, then what do most people, they can always do is make an excuse for yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I take it a step further. It's finding accountability to something to increase your productivity. What are you, or who are you accountable to? And it can't be yourself. 75 Hard promotes self-accountability, but once you finish 75 Hard, you realize that it's bigger than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for me, and this might be different for everyone, is to stay that motivated, increase productivity is finding an accountability to someone else. Because I have a fear of letting people down. As for me, and I think that applies for most people if you have pride in yourself. So, namely, it's my family, right? And that includes my parents. And the reason it includes my parents is because having immigrated from Vietnam after the Vietnam War, sacrificing all the wealth they had and starting all over again in a country where they didn't speak the language, don't know the culture, starting all over, working 3 or 4 jobs, with 4 young boys, they sacrificed that.
Yeah.
They took that's like me right now. My dad was in his 40s. So that's like me leaving to go to some foreign land to start all over again with my family. So that sacrifice, I have a fear of letting down that sacrifice.
So would you say it would have been a little bit of disrespect if you didn't reach that level?
It is disrespect to them, disrespectful for their sacrifice.
Just because the level they reached and, the sacrifice they gave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but not only that, I've spoken in the past about karmic balance.
Mm-hmm.
So if they sacrificed a whole lot of that for me and I don't balance the scale, then my karmic bank account is in a huge deficit.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the universe will not reward me having a negative karmic balance, right? So it's that accountability to something bigger than yourself. On top of that, with my companies and my law firm, I'm responsible for 15, 20 other families, not just my employees, but their families, because they're relying on me, right? I mean, they work for me and they get a check. There's an exchange of time and value, but ultimately that check supports their family's lifestyle. Yeah. And so, man, if I'm not motivated, then that's like if their families fail because of me, then that's huge karmic.
Like their families fail because our boss didn't feel like coming to work.
Yeah, boss didn't come to work. Boss didn't want to show up. Boss didn't want to do this.
He's too tired.
He's too tired. He didn't care. He didn't feel motivated that day. So when you level up, that's what happens. You start finding other people that you are technically responsible for. Yeah. In a real world sense and in a karmic sense that you are responsible for. And some people aren't ready for that. And that's where most people, I think most people fear that because if you don't take responsibility for yourself and total self-accountability, then how are you going to take responsibility for other people? Yeah. Right? And that's why things like 75 Hard is very important. You just can't. You got to put that oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on somebody else. And so, but leveling up in success requires you to be willing to accept responsibility for other people. It just happens. If you want to build a big company, make a ton of money, you're gonna be responsible for other
Yeah.
people. You've got employees now. You've got a team that you're responsible for. So your decisions affect them directly and indirectly. So the second part to that is you gotta have, I don't want to say checklists, because checklists is a double-edged sword. But you gotta because you can overwhelm yourself. You're like, oh my God, I got so much shit to do. I don't want to do any of it.
Especially if you're not used to it.
If you're not used to it.
Yeah.
If you, I see guys that have checklists 20 things long. They get through 3 of them, and then the next day they add 20 more things.
And it just discourages them.
It just discourages them. It's like, I'll never catch up. But you have to have things that you know you are required to do. You have to do on a daily basis to move the momentum forward. Now, going back to Andy Frisella, he has this thing called a power list, which is, you only do 5 things a day, which are required. And if you do those things, you win the day, which I can agree with. And that happens to be 75 hard, right? So you have the checklist. If you do those 5 things, you win that day with 75 hard. But there's also this other book called The One Thing. And basically the premise is, on your time frame, whether it's this year, this month, this week, this day, this hour, the next 10 minutes, whatever that time frame, you ask yourself, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact methodology, but it's, what is the one thing I can do right now that would make everything else easier or non-significant? Okay, what is the one thing? So, for example, if I know we got a trial going down in next week, what is the one thing right now that I could do to lessen the stress of the trial going down next week? So that allows you to prioritize what you must do at the moment.
Gotcha.
Right? So what I can do is I can strategize with my attorney on the case. And once he or she knows the strategy, they can go implement it so there's less stress on it.
Gotcha. So basically telling yourself everything is secondary at the moment.
Everything is secondary. So it helps you, and it's a prioritization technique. What is the one thing I can do which makes everything else easier related to that? Right? So for example, for me, I know I got to do the 5 things or 6 things of 75 hard. So I prioritize that in my day. Because I don't want it, freaking midnight, I'm exhausted, I'm fasting, and I'm like, damn, I got to do another workout, right?
Yeah.
Right? So I prioritize. So I get my workout done, first one done quickly. I read my 10 pages, I take my picture, all before sunrise. Because it's the one thing I can do now, which makes everything else easier.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to have like kind of a target, a check, like a specific itemization of things you must do to move the needle forward. Now, people have on their checklist, their daily checklist, pay the bills, pick up groceries. Yes, those are things that must be done, but do they really move your career, your plans forward on a success strategy, success pathway? No. Picking up groceries.
Eating food.
I gotta eat. I gotta have lunch. Those aren't prioritized things. But when you're saying, hey, I need, like, end of the, like I talked to you this morning before we got on air. Hey, I need to meet with you to talk about next year's strategy, right? That's our priority, because if we talk about it now, it makes next year easier. Yeah. Versus next year trying to ad-lib it, ad hoc, let's do this, let's do that. Just plan it out.
Yeah, it's already planned.
It's already planned. So those are the 2 main things, which is, again, great question. Find accountability to something other than yourself, right? And then have a specific list of things you must do to move the momentum forward.
Yeah, and don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning.
Don't overwhelm. You cannot overwhelm yourself. Because if you constantly think about, I got this next, you must think about what's next, but you got to stay focused on what's priority right now. Yeah. Because then you can get overwhelmed with that checklist. And then you gotta, it's just like weeding out. Like sometimes on my Instagram, I'll weed out people that, you got to weed that list. Yeah. On your checklist of to-dos, you got to weed out things that aren't really significant, moving the momentum. Yeah. Right. On your success path.
And if it helps anyone, like what I do is I write everything down like on paper. Will not write physically on like I have everything organized on my iPad or computer, and it just if you're a visual person, it just helps you organize things much better because you can move things around, prioritize. This needs to be done Monday. This needs to be done Sunday. So if you're kind of like an on-screen guy, I recommend you downloading an app and then just putting it on paper.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
just
I agree with
organizing.
that. Organization is key.
Yeah.
You know, it's a. I can go into an office or a house. It's just like that show Hoarders,
Mm-hmm.
right? I used to watch it when I was a kid. I was like, how do people live? Like you literally walk into a house
Yeah, it's,
and you can't go
you
anywhere
you
because there's so
you
much
walk,
trash
yeah.
and BS around. And I'm just like, how do people live like this? Well, I think that is a reflection of your mindset. Your personal space and how organized that is a reflection of where you are mentally.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got it under control mentally, your personal space is generally going to be pretty organized.
Yeah.
Now, things do pile up, and then you organize it down. But if you're just like leaving stuff, crap all over the place, that's where your mind is at.
Yeah.
You're all over the place. And so you can't have focused energy pushing momentum when it's scattered energy. That makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as your idea of writing things down, yeah, that's focused in.
Yeah.
So now you just got to look, boom, 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 got it done.
Yeah.
Right. Good question.
Perfect. All right. Let's go to the next one. So the next one is quite simple. It's who inspires you and why.
Ooh. Who inspires me and why?
I think I already know your answer, but go ahead.
Well, let's play. What would you guess? And then I'll give you an idea.
Your parents.
My parents? Yeah, that definitely they inspire.
Like, I feel like they're your biggest inspiration, but if you want to go like
Yeah,
more
definitely.
like
That's a good question, man, because I my motivation as I've gotten older is inspired by my drive, I should say, is inspired by not people. Surprisingly. I mean, my parents inspire me as an example.
Mhm.
Okay. But it's not them per se that inspire me. People are like, I'm doing this for my parents.
yeah.
As I mentioned in the first question, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for fear of not honoring them.
Okay. Yeah.
But if that makes sense,
it
it's
does.
different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a principle about them more so than them, right?
Yeah.
Again, they were multimillionaires in South Vietnam. When the Vietnam War happened, the South fell literally on one of the last cargo boats leaving port. One of my brothers almost passed away in the ocean, on the pathway here, being separated. You know, my dad went this way, wife and children this way. He's volunteering with a Red Cross so that he can go from camp to find us.
Yeah.
He finds us. We're reunited. We get our papers. We end up in Pennsylvania to our, quote, extended family, a Lutheran community that sponsored us, gave us clothes and shelter and all that, but literally gave up everything.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I can't imagine it, but to give you a picture, it's like no money, no clothes,
Mm-hmm.
no, you can't even speak the language. You don't know the culture. Your life just got uprooted. You went on this trans world,
Yeah.
dangerous, path to America. Your family, extended family, is still back in Vietnam. Who knows what's happening? They're getting imprisoned or whatever. Like, just that whole mental and spiritual toll.
Yeah.
And then starting a business and working night and day, and then to a multi-million-dollar company. Like, that story must be honored as the youngest son.
Yeah.
Like, that's just me personally. I can't speak for my brothers, but I should say, not the story. That sacrifice must be honored. Now, it's my parents. Yeah, they gave me life on this planet, but it's that whole concept of honoring that is what inspired me, because that's, I read something interesting this morning. It's studies have shown that psychological trauma, fear, success, hope, all these concepts can be passed down generationally. Like there's some type of genetic methylation in your DNA or some type of genetics that allows these non-physical things to be inherited amongst generations.
So, are you able to fix it and then reproduce, or?
There you go. Yeah. Right? So, if you are able to, that's why people say you're so much like your father. It's not your physical characteristics, it's your behavior and personality. These things are passed down generationally. Yeah. And you can break that chain or you cannot. You can consciously break that chain and alter your family bloodline. Yeah. Right? If let's say I have a fear of cats, right? I could pass that down to my kids. But if I face that fear, then my kids won't have that fear of cats.
That's interesting.
Yeah. There's scientific studies, published papers about this. So that story, that sacrifice is passed down to me. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I'm looking at them as an example saying, hell, if they can come back from zero, less than zero at 40, 50 years old.
Every disadvantage you can think of.
Yeah. Every disadvantage. If they can come back from that, then what can't I do? Yeah. What can't I, if I'm of that bloodline, yeah. What can't I do? And so that inspires me to just, fuck it, let's go do it. Yeah. Like it's that mentality. It's like, if it makes sense, let's go do it. Let's try it. And I find that sometimes it's hurt me. It's like, damn, this is a stupid decision. Yeah. But more often than not, it's like, it allows me to be successful. It's like, fuck, let's just go. Let's do it and figure it out. Yeah. Because they had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. So that those characteristics of just figuring it out, accepting that, hey, if they can do that, I can do that. I'm their child. That inspires me. That's the inspiration. Now, obviously, my kids inspire me because I want to teach them and do things as an example. People out there with kids learn by example, not what you say, it's what you do, right? So if I'm doing all these habits daily and my kids are there watching me, then that is a way to transfer these habits rather than telling them, hey, you need to do nobody wants to be told what to do, right?
Well, sitting on the couch eating chips, you need to do
the nobody wants that. Yeah. So but I'm just doing it, and they're seeing it, then hopefully it's like, okay, they register at some point in their life. Yeah. Hey, I saw Dad doing these things. He was, nose to the grind, doing it daily, in and out. Yeah,
stayed in shape, everything.
Yeah. It's just like now. So my daughter, who's 5, Juniper, who you've met, she knows I'm on 75 hard. Right? So she'll get a cookie, and then she'll be like, you want a piece? And then she'll stop herself. He's like, oh, but you can't. You're on 75 hard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I can give you a piece when you're done. I'm like, and so she's already, by example, knowing that I'm on 75 hard, she won't, quote, tempt me with her sweets. Yeah. Right? So it's those kind of things that just kind of inspirational. I find inspiration should not be derived from people.
Yeah. So you just find inspiration in ideas and lessons, I guess.
And results. Yeah. And results. And the feeling you get from results. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't remember these episodes, but it's like when you get into a supercar, the feeling or the vibe of being in a supercar hauling ass is inspiration. It can inspire you. It's like, damn, I want more of this. Yeah. Right? When you walk into, a grand house that you earned, that inspires me to do more. It's like it builds on itself. Yeah. Not the house itself, but the experience is inspirational, right? So it's kind of a cart and a horse, though, because how do you get inspired to get into the supercar? Well, that's where you got to find that inspiration. It's like when you make money, it inspires you to make more money. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. It's that you've not asked anybody that's made a ton of money. That first million is the hardest. But then but once you get there, you've learned what it takes. And so the next one gets a little easier, and the next one, and the next one, and it just compounds on itself.
Because you learned the lessons.
Because you learned the lessons. So it's not making the money that's hard. It's actually holding the money, keeping onto the money that's hard. But that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Another. We'll save that for a future day. But it's the inspiration around the ideas, concepts, and experiences that happen to might be with people, my parents, my wife, Candace, my employees, right? It might be that, one of the employees that worked with me, that's been with me for several years, just bought a house.
It's a big thing.
First house.
Yeah.
Big thing to them, but that inspires me.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, my work helped you buy your house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me help other people buy their first house. That's the inspiration.
Yeah.
So it's not people. Don't hone in on people. Don't be like, I want to be like Steve Jobs, so that inspires me. No, that's fleeting. It's very superficial.
Yeah.
It's
now
temporary.
It's effective for a minute, but it goes away fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the concepts of inspiration, when you think about it, like I like a month from now, I can come back and say, man, that person that works for me just bought her first home, man. How cool is that?
Yeah.
She's been with me for 5 years. Like, that's really cool. And you'll get that inspiration just immediately because it's a positive vibe. You're vibing that inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? So I would implore you, people that are listening, that, hey, find inspiration on the concepts and the principles and the experience of positivity rather than idolizing or idolatry on a person. I want to be the next blank. No, that's not. But what you can say is, I want to be like the next blank because that person was so impactful to the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Right. So find a reason tied to that person.
Yeah. And it can also be sometimes discouraging because they've reached such a high level, whoever they're idolizing.
Yeah.
That it can be like,
I would never get there.
Because they're just using all the shortcuts and pretending to be that person, I guess.
That's very, very true. And that's why the self-accountability, all those things matter. All these ideas of success, this podcast, all the ones, self-improvement, self-help ones that people listen to, everybody thinks there's like one magic bullet, right? If I have consistency, I'm going to be successful. Is true, but you have to look at it as like kind of a special recipe. Okay. Each element, consistency, determination, accountability, inspiration, all these things you personally have to meld it together in your mind and implement on it to be successful. There's no one magic bullet, right? If you do your daily list, yes, that's required, but consistency to do your daily list, self-accountability to do your daily list as best as you possibly can, right? Flexibility to adapt on your daily list. Determination. Okay, some of those things on your daily list might be really, really hard, might take several hours, if not days. Okay, so determination to finish it and see it through. Adaptability, all these things. It's everything mixed in.
Yeah.
And your life is that gourmet plate. It's that dish. So that little morsels, right? It's that dish that you're cooking up. People say it's a story you're writing. It's this. I'll just call it your dish that you're cooking. And in the end of the day, on your deathbed, whatever, you get to eat all that. You get to eat that plate, right? And so what you're putting into it is that plate you're going to feast on your deathbed. You're putting garbage on your plate. Well, when your last moments and your last breaths, you're just thinking about your life was pretty garbage.
Yeah.
Right?
Or what you could have achieved.
Or what you could have achieved.
Yeah.
It could be an empty plate. It's like, damn, nothing here.
Nothing here.
Right? So you're constantly, you're the chef. You're the chef. Right? I like that. I just made that up.
Yeah,
I keep hearing you're the author of your own story. No, you're the chef of your own plate, your own meal.
Yeah.
Right? What you put in, consistency, determination, all
and
those
what
things.
lessons you learned will be the best recipe.
That's going to be the best recipe. Yeah. Exactly. Good, man.
Perfect.
Any other questions? You want a bonus round or anything? Or
that
we
should
good?
be it.
Okay, good. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it very much.
No
Again, this is an episode of Prolific Q&A. One of the type of episodes, we have Prolific POV. Maybe that'll come up soon. I have a handful of guests ready to go. for guest episodes, and then obviously I'm gonna come back around again for some short episodes about either concepts and ideas about success. But I'm gonna end my show as I end my day. End my day always giving thanks to God and the universe for another day, having lived and being able to have made an influence and inspire people, hopefully. So I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Again, if your knowledge swole, share the show. This is that's how we grow, because this is a value exchange. We're doing this for free. Don't let your karmic balance be at a deficit. Share the show. If you got value, share the show. Like, comment, follow, subscribe. And for those of you all who are all supporting us, thank you very much. I end my day with gratitude again. So thank you very much. Looking forward to bringing you another episode very, very soon. Off 75 hard, but I'm going to still stay on some of the disciplinary things related to it. But I feel fantastic. A lot of content to come around towards the end of the year to help build your momentum for the start of the year. And then a lot of new things coming around the corner that you can participate on that I'm excited to talk to you about. So if your knowledge swole, share the show. Be great today, but be even more grateful. Looking forward to bringing you another episode very, very soon.